Good afternoon, Myra. How are you?
I'm great, Candy. Thank you. How are you today?
Pretty good. I'm introducing Myra Tobolowsky, and your last name
Correct.
is, yes. And she is my guest today on our little Manchester Care Cambridge a show that we do once a month. And I'm so excited you're here because you have a very important story to tell that we can all learn from. You have parents, you have loved ones, and you've had the experience with them of finding them a care home where you wanted to put them because they needed this care that could not be given at home. And you actually you looked and you found what you thought was the perfect home, but it really wasn't. Can you tell us a little bit about the process of how you did that, and then how you found Manchester Care Homes?
I would, I would love to. So, my mother lived 92 fabulous years on her own, and literally the day after her 92nd birthday, she lost her sight. So, we immediately knew that living on her own wasn't an option anymore, and we needed to find her a place immediately that could give her round the clock care and fill her needs of not being able to see. So we put her in what we felt like was the best choice, a very close by. There are four of us, four siblings, and we decided together to put her close by us in a large facility that had an incredible reputation, and we knew other people who had parents there and had very positive experiences. We had a little bit of a different situation because my mother needed more help because she was, immediately lost her sight and, didn't know how to handle it emotionally as well as physically. So we felt like the ratio was really going to be good and that she was going to get the care she needed. And it turned out to not be a good choice for her. If you can imagine one person for taking care of 8 adults that aren't as fast as they used to be, that need help going to the restroom, that need help with their meals, whatever
And open things.
and they want to give them as much individual care as they could, that would be hard on a good day. And that just never happened. The ratio, the turnover is very high in that industry, and it turned out not to be a good fit for us. So we contacted a specialist.
So in other words, there were different people coming in all the time, coming and going.
Yes.
Yes.
And yes, and it wasn't enough care for her. And so we contacted a specialist in the field of placing, seniors in different homes throughout the city of Dallas. He was familiar with every nursing home, every living situation type. And this was 9 years ago. He was very young at the time. His name was Paul Markowitz, senior living specialist. I'm so grateful I will never forget his name. And he immediately felt like our best fit would be this new kind of living situation called Manchester Place or Manchester Homes. I'm not really sure what it was called at the time, and that we should immediately go and visit one of the homes. And he felt like it was a perfect fit right off the bat.
It's like the Ritz-Carlton. It really is, because in fact, I've always said to my children that I want to be at the Ritz-Carlton when I'm that age because of the service. And then I walk in and I find Manchester Care Homes, and that is the Ritz-Carlton for assisted living. It really is, because people have their own bedroom, they have their own suite, basically. They can take their own furniture from, which I think is so singularly important, that you are still kind of creating the home feeling of their home within that home. So is that what you found?
Oh yeah, the familiarity, but the ratio of care to the individual patient was outstanding. It was supposed to be a 4-to-1, which in itself is amazing, but oftentimes my mother had one-on-one. I mean, they were so wonderful to her. They would she did not want to be in her room, and they put her wherever they were going. If they were in the kitchen, she was in the kitchen with them. If they were in the living room vacuuming, she was in the living room. It was like being at home.
Yeah.
And
That's it. That's what they do. They make it to be as it's the most homey place that it could be without actually being in your home. And then of course they have that aspect that if you need care in your home, they will, they can supply people to come into the home and take care of you. But it's amazing. And I'm so glad to hear that you've had that experience as a consumer, or as the child of a loved one, that you have to make this decision. And how long was she there then?
my mother was at Manchester for not quite 2 years before she passed away, or maybe it was somewhere in the 2 year period.
Okay.
And she at least had two birthday parties there. I'm telling you, that was the other thing. The other thing, you had there were restricted hours to come see, visiting hours, or restrictions how many people could be in the dining room with the guest at this other living facility. At Manchester, I came in, I sat with my mom for dinner. We could have as many people in her room as we wanted, as long as we didn't disturb other, residents there. It was like she was entertaining us in her own little home.
Wow.
They
Wow.
they really made her feel like it was her home.
Okay, now I get to ask you this question. How was the food?
The food was fabulous, and they catered to her needs. If she didn't like what they were making that day, she would say, "Would you make me a grilled cheese?" And they'd make her a grilled cheese.
Wow.
But the food was actually really fabulous, and they didn't restrict us bringing in food for her either. She was,
Oh,
she was very well taken care of.
so like if
Um,
you wanted to go out and bring ice cream or something, that's fine.
Absolutely. And we would bring it for the whole house. It would be just, it would make us feel good to do that. And they would within whatever restrictions each patient had, let them share it. So yeah.
That's great. So have you had was it more than your mother that was there at under the care of Manchester Care Homes?
Yes, my mother-in-law, also, we moved her into Manchester home, but it was more towards the end of her life, after she was really, I wouldn't say, I guess she was almost in a coma, but there was no choice but to move her there, because we knew the care that she was going to get there was going to be, as high a level as we could have anticipated. We actually, and now that I think about it, we might have even thought she was going to get better, and that's why we picked Manchester, because we knew if she did get better, if she went the other way, that she was going to be in the perfect place either way. So
You picked it. So you had already had that experience. Now they weren't there at the same time, were they?
no, they were in two different facilities, actually.
Oh, okay. Okay. One of the other things you mentioned too, which I think is very important, is you said that you picked the first facility that we won't talk about because it was so close to home. And I think one of the other beauties of Manchester Care Homes is that they specifically build these homes in neighborhoods. So they are actually close by. In fact, you can't distinguish them from another home in the neighborhood. They look just like another home. They're built specifically for this. It's a very unique concept. And as you said, you were there at the very beginning when they first opened. It's a unique concept that I think we're going to see more of as they grow, because we're aging. We boomers are, unfortunately getting older, and there's just, more of us are going to have to be taken care of at some point. So
Well, I'd love to add to your point about it being a home. On Halloween, my mother had a Halloween, witch's hat and a witch's cape, and they would put her on the front porch, and the kids in the neighborhood would come by, and she would hand out candy for the house. So yeah, it was definitely a neighborhood home. And I think the neighborhoods, I actually talked to some of the neighbors once, and they loved having those homes there because they felt their homes were safe because there was people coming in and out all day long, and they felt their neighborhoods were very well protected because of it.
Well, actually, that's right. And not only that, but they're very well maintained because there's staff there, they're mowing it, they're cleaning it, they're making sure everything's clean. So you're basically, instead of the monolithic, huge, big, institutional hospital-like building that you can put someone in, instead you're putting them in a beautiful small home that is right there in a neighborhood where you can hear the birds chirping, and it's look out your window and see a tree.
Right. My mom loved sitting outside. They would take her outside. They also had tons of activities. They had people coming in and doing music with them, and even the people that worked there did activities with them, and they really made it. They made it really easy on the family.
Yeah.
I felt my mom. I just it was such a pleasure not to have to worry about.
That's the thing, is that there's enough that we worry about, and we have, life now is very complicated, and for Manchester Care Homes to take that worry out of our lives, so we know that our loved ones are well taken care of. It's amazing. It's great that we tell me one thing that surprised you about, or maybe one or two things that surprised you about the homes once you got there and got your mom all settled in.
Well, I think after our first experience, everything was a surprise at how much better everything was. But I think I think how maybe we got along with all the other families of the residences in the home, and how
interesting.
I think the other thing is, because we didn't experience it at the other place, I still have some of the other residents' birthdays on my calendar to this day. And they might not even be alive, but they are reminders of when my mom lived there, because we kind of all became this one big family. And I knew how Leaky was doing, and Leaky's niece knew how my mom was doing. And, that was a really nice surprise.
It sounds like, I remember when our kids, you probably remember this, when the kids were in sports, like if they were on a swim team or the football team, and you got to be so close to all those parents, who were, because we all had this unifying thing that we were, rooting for our kids. We wanted to do so well in this team. And like now it's kind of a similar situation, but the unifying factor is that you all have loved ones there, and you're caring for them and want the best care for them so that they do well. That's very interesting. I'm so glad you brought that up, because I had not heard that before.
Oh, great. Because there were only 8 residences.
Yeah.
So, and there's that common room, and, just they loved being in the common room together. And so that's where, I'd sit with my mom, and she would sit with, somebody else would sit with their mom, and we would all kind of converse, and, whatever. We just kind of became, or we'd all be there with them at dinner, and squeezing in at the table with them. And we just got to know each other, and they were part of our family. And I honestly, here's something that's going to, I think, surprise me as I say it. But I think the things that surprised me the most is how really caring you think the caregivers are. These caregivers really cared about my mother. I've kept in touch with many of them over the years, even one who moved back to Africa. We still keep in touch. Oh. And one of them named their child after my mother. And I keep in touch with many of the people who were there, that worked there when my mom was there. And you think, oh, they care about my mom and that's their job. They really cared about my mom.
Oh. That is amazing. You kept in touch with the employees. Well, that's the other thing that Manchester Care Homes has above everyone else, is they have they retain their employees, and that helped during COVID too. Because I know we've talked to Sandy Greenberg, the nurse, and she ran a very tight ship. And this was in the ultimate test, of course, this past year when we had so many people getting and spreading COVID, and she runs a tight ship there, and she does not have her employees go in and out, and they stay. They retain their employees, and that means that there's a higher quality of care, I believe.
So here's a secret.
Yeah.
Sandy's not a secret. Sandy's here because of me.
Really?
So Sandy's mother-in-law, Sylvia Greenberg, they were looking for a place for Sylvia. I grew up on Wagner Drive.
Yeah.
The block between Preston and what's now the toll road used to be the railroad tracks.
Right.
So did Marla. And we've been friends since we were 5 years old. So when they went to look for a place for Sylvia, Marla had visited me at Manchester Place and my mom at Manchester Place all the time. She would come, and Sylvia. So they went to look at Manchester Place. Unfortunately, there wasn't room, but Sandy ended up getting a job there.
Oh my gosh. Well, she's terrific. She's just great. And of course, we were all together, Brian, Sandy, and I, on when COVID first started. So we kind of lived through all that and kept in touch. And we all had to go quarantine, But anyhow, I just think that we have brought out some really wonderful points that I didn't even know. And I've learned so many things about these wonderful places, both Cambridge caregivers, again, people coming into your home, and Manchester Care Homes. Now, I want to tell everyone out there watching this that if you have an interest in Manchester Care Homes, or you would want to take a tour, just log onto their website. They have an excellent website, ManchesterCareHomes.com. And of course, we'll have that in the article too, that you can, go back to and look at on Candy's Dirt. But I would encourage everyone to look them, even if you don't have a loved one yet who is in that position. It changes, like you were saying with was it your mother-in-law? Your mother?
My mom.
Your mom, just overnight. I know my husband's mother is 90, and she's living beautifully on her own in New York, in her own place. And we worried about her so much during COVID, but she was fine. She had people do her shopping for her and everything, but it's a time that's very, very, where time is very short, and in 2 minutes that can all change.
Right.
That's what you experienced.
Yes.
Yeah. And so it's nice to know that there's this option. Know that there's this option there, so that you don't, bless it that you had this wonderful, consultant who you could go to. But if you don't have the time for that, then you must have this bookmark somewhere, so it's there. Right.
And I, like you, hope it's there when I need it.
Oh my gosh. Well, and you know what? I think we'll all be there together. And of course, we're going to say we have to have champagne at 5, right?
Oh, yeah. Wait, that's a really funny story. Would you like to know a funny story? Yeah. My mother wanted her scotch every day at 5. And, but they, couldn't give it to her because she was taking medicines that prevented it. And so, of course, I contacted the doctor at Manchester who prescribed the medicine. I said, look, my mom's 94. She wants her scotch. She said, I get it. Let her have her scotch.
So she got her scotch.
Got her scotch.
Fabulous. That's great. Well, I do confess, during COVID, I think I went from champagne to scotch. So I'm like your mom. Thank you so much, Myra. It was great to see you again.
And best of luck in the upcoming elections.
Oh my gosh, yes, it's going to be interesting. It really is. 1 week left. But of course, we're still going to be doing our wonderful Zooms and promoting this wonderful place. It really doesn't, it speaks for itself, because it is a great business and a great example of how I think you can take the corporate world and the business world, and there's a need out there, and the need is met. It's met beautifully. And I hope to goodness that Adam produces more of these, because I think he's met a tremendous niche that is needed.
9 years for me, and I still remember it vividly because my memories are so fond.
Yeah.
Yeah. They you're right.
Terrific. It's the answer. And that I think he's so smart. I think we should use him for other problems that we have too, because that's what we need is business, great business minds can find solutions.